In this video, we're going to discuss how to add a team to your portal. So first, we're going to go to our sports header, select teams. Once here, we're going to tap on the add button. Then we can see we're now in our create new team window. We're going to select our team. We're going to be able to see every sport on here is going to be a stat supported sport on the app, except for anything that falls into that other sport category. So let's say we're going to be creating a women's hockey team. I'm going to select my icon next. So I've got my women's hockey icon. I have to put in my name. It's required. Short team name, this is optional. It's going to default with whatever you had set on the operations app configuration general page. Year, this is optional as well. It will not display in the app. Purposes of this is for kind of your organization purposes to know, all right, I'm creating this for the 2020-21 season. And then later when I come in to kind of check if things are updated, I know when the last time was that I updated it. Next thing required, we need to make sure that we assign a venue for this team. Display order, so if we are setting the display order for all of our teams, we'll want to make sure to add in whatever number this team is going to show up in my display order. I'm just going to put 6 in here as an example. If you don't populate this display order section, then it's going to default to display teams alphabetically. And keep in mind that it's always going to prioritize from the user's perspective the teams that they're following. So if I choose as a user to only follow women's hockey, then it's going to be the first one in my display order. So this display order is really optional. Next, we're going to come over to our biodemographics. You can ignore these checkbox down here. Biodemographics, so I'm going to go ahead and select my record style. So hockey, win-loss, non-zero ties. And we can leave our provider ID and venue ID alone. Conference, so let's come up with, so this will be our conference name. Again, this isn't going to display in the app anywhere. So it's really kind of optional here, but I always just like to add it in. Total wins and losses. If you are a Front Row X app or a FanX Plus app, this will automatically update from the website. Otherwise, if it's not Front Row X or FanX Plus, make sure this is where you would edit any of your record information. Tickets URL, so if there is a URL that you want to point fans towards for all ticketing needs for that sport, you can populate that here, and then it will show on all of that team's games. General URL, so these are optional, but if you wanted to add something in here like conference standings and link out to that page or any other miscellaneous websites assigned for that team, you could put that in here. Stat provider, so this for our stat supported sports, this would be required. So since I am selecting a stat supported sport, then I need to make sure to select this. If I was doing an other sport or a non-like stat supported sport, then I would change this to none and I would just ignore the stat section. But in our example here, we're going to go ahead and we always have to have a stat crew ID. And then the other piece, so where we're going to pull that ID is going to be from an example stat XML. So let me switch gears over to my XML file. And what we're looking for in this stat file is going to be the ID. So in this example, you know, I'm going to pull the home ID for this particular one. So I would grab that EVAN for my stat ID. And we always like to kind of check multiple stat files just to make sure that, you know, if there are ever sometimes other IDs that get utilized that we're capturing those. So, you know, in this example, you know, I would pull that ID. If there's other stat providers other than Stat Crew, and if you use something other than Stat, you know, if you don't use Stat Crew but you use Genius, it's still going to require you to have a Stat Crew one, but don't worry about that. Just grab that ID, and then if there's any other ones, you can add those in as well. For our FanX Plus or Front Row X schools, you'll want to make sure that you search for that source ID for the team and make sure you populate that. So you would just tap the search button, find the most recent season, or find the team ID for that data source, select it, and move on. Media, so we do need to have a card image and a banner image. That will be required. Logo image is optional since this will pull the logo image that is set for the institution. But otherwise, I'm just going to throw in some placeholder here just for my example. Let's just throw in a random card image. Random banner image. Next up, if you are a rewards school or client, you'll want to make sure to put in those default points for that team. So this is saying that 25 points, that's how many points every women's hockey game is going to be worth. Offset, so if I want that offset to be, so when that check-in window begins to be 15 minutes before the game, then I'll add that in here. If I want that check-in time to start 15 minutes after the game has started, then I can put a negative in. Otherwise, I can leave that blank. Negative time offset, I recommend leaving this blank. The only option here would be to extend that check-in window to stay open after the game is over. Audio and video, if there is a standard audio source that is utilized for all of that team's games, that can be populated here. Same for video. Otherwise, this can be ignored. If you're a FanX Plus school or a Front Row X school, audio and video will be pulled down on a game-by-game basis, so you can go ahead and ignore this piece. Summary, if there is a brief summary that you'd like to add in here, a little bit of information about the team. You know, the women's hockey team has been coached by Sydney Reiners for the last 10 years. This is their record, so on and so forth. This is optional right here. But otherwise, to recap, required fields, sport, icon, name, venue, record style, stat provider if it's applicable, and imagery. Followed by data provider if you're a FanX Plus or Front Row X school, and rewards points if you're a rewards client. So once we've got everything set, we're going to create the team. It's going to first put it into a stage status. So pending that I've got everything that I need in here and I feel comfortable publishing this, I can go ahead and say publish. And now if we head back to our teams list, we should see our women's hockey team added right here. Thank you for watching, and let us know if you have any questions.